goals. We're good.
All right, I will call the meeting to order. We have a quorum. We have everyone here today.
All right.
Oh, do we need to do? We need to. Jeff, does he need to go?
Yeah,
We need to have a motion.
yes, a motion to allow Director World to
Yes.
speak remotely.
Yeah, I moved.
Vote against.
We need to ask him a question. We need to get, we need to ask whether it's business or personal.
And then where you're coming from.
Yeah, once he's allowed in.
We can say it's not personal.
Okay, I move that Director Morrow be allowed to participate remotely for the reason that he is going to tell us short. Is there a second?
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Director Morrow, can you tell us
All
where you
right.
are?
I'm on business in Milton, Massachusetts.
All right, thank you. Matters from the public. We have a member of the public who wishes to speak today. All right, welcome. Speaking.
I signed up online and
You're nice, but
and you. Please.
Is this the one we're gonna see at the board meeting?
Yeah, that's. All right, my name is Neil Williamson, and for those that don't know me, I serve as the president of the Free Enterprise Forum, a privately funded pro-business public policy organization focused on local governments of Central Virginia. First and foremost, I want to thank you for your service. It really wasn't that long ago that the very concept of economic development was not clearly, shall we say, embraced in Albemarle County. But now we're fast forward to today. I want to read you something. Albemarle's development process is more complex and time intensive than neighboring localities. Businesses and developments cited a lack of clarity in requirements and longer permitting times as top challenges, especially for firms trying to move quickly on expansions. That is not from the Free Enterprise Forum blog, but from your own strategic plan. That's now part of AC 44, page 66 for those that aren't familiar. Despite a top-level commitment to better processes, there are still some in this building that believe no bureaucrat has been fired for saying no. Your strategic plan and your own experiences developing Rivanna Futures have provided you with a unique perspective on the development community challenges to meet the other goals in your strategic plan. As we move toward January, I'm asking the Albemarle EDA to make strategy number 5, your 2026 New Year's resolution. Without desirable, developable, and properly entitled land, you are sending your economic development team out into the market with no inventory. But you can change this. Working with the Board of Supervisors in community development, you can advocate that every applicant get the AstraZeneca treatment, or as I call it, hit the AZ button. As an example, I provided you with the zoning modernization project timeline. If you hit the AZ button to shorten this 3-year planning employment project, it could have a huge economic benefit for Albemarle County. Entrepreneur Seth Gooden once said, "You don't need a new plan for next year, you need a commitment." I'm asking Albemarle County EDA to make such a commitment. Commit to be the conduit to continue to advance positive change in Albemarle County's development philosophy. I firmly believe Albemarle can do things like proactively rezone commercial property, allow residential and commercial zones, process a building permit in 2 weeks, process a rezoning application in less than 6 months, approve a site plan in less than 3 months. If not now, when? If not, who? Thanks for the opportunity to speak.
Thanks, Dale. All right. Next on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the joint meeting. I think the only comment I had on it is that maybe we ought to list the Charlottesville members on there. Any other comments on the meeting minutes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve as amended.
Nice. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, all right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Minutes are approved. Financial report.
Yes, sir. Couple of notes here. We got some accrued funds and EDA accounts from the investment piece. I'm gonna talk to Tia to see where that bump came from. That was a little bit more than I thought it was gonna be. The Brookdale tax rebate is working its way through the system, so that'll be out shortly. I believe Habitat Southwood is going before the board next month, so that will also be coming out shortly. And then, as we'll talk about later today, in January, we'll have the Seville BioHub next round of installments. So those are the major highlights from this go around.
Any questions or comments on the financials?
I'm missing Habitat Southwood on here.
Yes, that one's it'll be on there for January.
Okay. Let me make sure my reading comprehension hadn't fallen off.
All right, unfinished business. So first is the economic development strategic plan implementation update. We welcome Liz Pedigo to do that. Do you need an introduction or even needs no introduction?
I don't need any introduction. Come on.
I'll just say that we've been working with Stephen since the EDA approved the funding for the implementation strategy for the past couple of months. I will let him say everything else that needs to be said, but it's been wonderful to work with Stephen on this as we move in towards what do we do to advance the plan.
Thanks, Stephen.
Cool. Hey guys, can I just share a couple slides? Do you mind if that's possible? I don't know if the person that's will give me sharing result.
Yes.
Yeah, nothing like a little.
I'm used to that. Let me know if it doesn't let you.
Yep. I've got access. Fantastic. Okay, you don't need to see. Okay, so good afternoon, y'all. Thanks for having me here. I feel like I'm getting some feedback. Perhaps you could mute the floating web. There we go. Now you guys, I can't hear you, but you can't. I'm not hearing myself talk twice. You guys can hear me. Yes, thumbs up. Fantastic. Okay, so first of all, thanks for the opportunity. This has been really fun to work with Emily and the team on. I think that it is often challenging to take a large countywide or community economic development plan and then think about how you're going to implement that at a department level. And so part of the work that we've been doing together is doing some business planning around that. As you guys know, the question at hand was how do we take the strategic plan that the county had approved, the Board of Supervisors we spent all that time doing and really actualize on that work. And I'm going to have an opportunity to come back and spend, I think, a full meeting with you guys next session to talk through what that business plan will look like, talk a little bit about the resourcing, share about how that will be connected to the work that you all are doing as the Economic Development Authority as well, and offer some insights and recommendations back to you guys. So we're going to spend a little bit of time workshopping on that. But what I really wanted to do is just kind of overview really quickly what we've done so far with Emily and team. So one of the things that's been really key for this is just trying to have a better understanding about how do we identify what are the functions that is happening in the Economic Development Office. So to build out the strategic plan, there are several staff members across the department doing different work. And really what we wanted to be able to do over the course of the past few months was start to tie their work back to the plan, right? We could see the team plans, the individual plans tie back to the advancement of the work. So as part of that, I really kind of introduced this idea of accountability mapping. For those of you who have used this work before, maybe in your own business or own work, really spent some time with the team, kind of understanding like what were the core functions of things that we actually did. It was actually a really great conversation. I think Emily can talk a little bit about this, but we were able to identify really what were core functions. We also spent some time really unpacking who was doing what amongst those core functions. And then as we did that core functions, then we went back to the economic development strategic plan and then started to map the strategic plan to those functions and having a real clear sense of how do we start to organize the work around the work that department is doing. From there, we've spent some time identifying, our 1 year and 3 year goals. We're still working through that work in a way to advance the plan. And then from that, we have developed some 6 month, 18 month, and 12 month priorities. So we're starting to scaffold up the work. So the work, when I come back to you guys in January, we'll be setting up this business plan around sort of what were our short-term goals, our medium-term goals, and our long-term goals, all situated about how it delivers back onto the strategic plan. So in doing that work, I'm not going to go back through the plan, but I will say this is really key, important work. And I think it's probably the first time that the department has spent some time really doing this. What we really identified throughout the work is if you go back to thinking about what the department does and what's in the strategic plan, here are kind of the 5 things that this department really does. We as an organization do. We spend a lot of our time in the next generation of work, spending around business attraction, innovation work. We're doing a lot around business success partnerships and talent partnerships. Think about this as our existing business work. The previous speaker made a good element about what do we need to be doing around site investment. Site investment and readiness is going to be a key element of the work that we're doing going forward as it ties to the plan. And market intelligence and business intelligence, and then kind of our back of the house work, all 3 of those kind of being kind of the front of the house operations that we as a department do. Front of the house is important because it's the delivering on the community promises that we made in the economic development strategy. The back of the house being the stuff that's really centered on the administration and fiscal stewardship work. All this to say, developing those core functions, you can start to imagine how we've done this and you start to really get a real clarity about what we do and what we don't do. So for instance, around business attraction, we're going to target our, really build out really strong recruitment plans around our target sectors. We're going to have a real clear process around our RFIs. We're going to make sure that we've got our incentive packages aligned. This is a conversation that we'll have with you all back when we come back in January. Around business partnerships, we're going to get our structured business program together. We're going to have a real clear sector priority and partnerships together. We're going to make sure we've got a process around how we're supporting grant and funding. Site readiness. We're going to make sure that we're advancing the site readiness, that we're thinking about how we're aligning that with the infrastructure investments that the county's making and making sure that we've got the development processes in place. Marketing and business intelligence, making sure that we've got all the things that are necessary to support the business attraction efforts, the marketing materials, the collateral, all of the intelligence kind of work put together in a way that becomes really kind of off the shelf and easy and accessible to do. And then finally, around the kind of fiscal stewardship piece of this was really us understanding, well, what is the role that we do around our systems? How are we thinking about our governance with you all? And how does that tie back into budgeting and procurement? So now that those are kind of core functions, the next element of the work, in which again we'll come back and share, will be, what are our short-term priorities, our medium-term priorities, our long-term priorities, and then in addition to that, we've done a really good job with Emily and team of identifying who's really accountable for that work. So who within the office is on point for advancing pieces of the work, so that we've moved beyond just sort of job descriptions, but tying back to individual work plans and our department work plan back to the implementation. So a little bit of the work that we're doing. I'm excited. I think Emily can talk a little bit more about this. Maybe I'd love to hear her thoughts, but it's been a good process in terms of us thinking about how we actually actualize on the strategic planning process so far. So with that, I'll stop, and Emily, open to questions or comments that you may have.
Had a little bit of a problem with your connection there, but I think the high level points that Stephen was making came through. But let me just pause there and just say, is there anything that you all want me to try to address on behalf of Stephen?
I'm sorry if I was a frozen person throughout the entire presentation. My apologies.
I'm sorry. If I was.
I think it's a feedback thing. I think it's a
I think it's a connection thing.
Well, I guess one question that I had is sort of thinking about, in terms of the plan. Also, EDA versus EDO and how much of that, like what are really EDO office issues versus or plans or how that plays out too. So we could maybe understand things that EDA needs to do versus the EDO office.
Yeah,
So
and
part of
January will be kind of I'll grab it, Stephen. You can fill in if you disagree because we're having a hard time getting you. So part of the approach was like let's start by sort of lining out what are the things that the EDO is going to do, and then as sort of the phase 2 fold in, okay, what is the EDA's role and what do you all see as the key opportunities that make sense for your authority? And as it relates to the work that the office is planning on doing, obviously there's things in the plan that we've discussed that EDO would take lead on, that the EDA is a key critical partner in. We can't do incentives without the EDA's participation in incentives is one key example. But then, you know, I think there's opportunities for the EDA to sort of articulate, you know, the financial report provides at the bottom line, the funds that the EDA can use to leverage or support initiatives. We now have a good grasp of what that number is. It's very close to real time. How do you all see this authority directing those funds? And do you have a shared vision on what sort of opportunities would be in alignment with what you hope to use those funds for, versus things that might fall outside of that, and you would look to the board of supervisors, the office budget to fund? And so that's a part of, I think, the work that we would look to do in January with you all. Again, with sort of an intro to here's the things that the office is looking at and how we're approaching what's in the strategic plan and how we would operationalize that into the work that we do, and then fold in, okay, what does the EDA see as some key opportunities? I think we also would be very interested in hearing your feedback on what we're thinking, do you want to say, yes, that's great? And what we've been sort of thinking through, do you want to say, we're not sure, we thought you were going to work on that, and let's talk more about that. So a way to have a conversation about, you know, are we on track? Are we thinking about this in the right way?
First of all, thank you. I know that Avery's done so much work, and from when I first came to what this is now, this is so much more user friendly. So thank you very much to even be able to see really where we're at. And so I appreciate the hard work that's on there. One of the things I think for me that when we look at the projects that are coming to us, especially in the beginning of the year, and we look, okay, we have this amount of money, how are we gonna, you know, is there going to be enough at the end of the year, right, if something really big comes up or something like that? How far in advance do you have an idea of basically projects and potential asks in your in the pipeline? Maybe.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
And the answer may be frustrating. There's things that we know will be coming. We actually, feedback that we've shared and other local economic developers have shared at the regional level. A lot of the grant matches that come before this body are related to regional funding bodies. And so we have shared sort of collectively as local offices, you know, we never know when someone's making an application until they come asking for a match. And so it's hard to know, it's hard to budget for that. You know, like I don't want to say yes to the first one in, or I don't want to put you in a position to make a positive recommendation around a project opportunity, not knowing what's coming behind it. And so that can be frustrating. Those programs are designed to accept applications quarterly or biannually, to be able to respond to the needs that emerge in a community over time, but as an effect, make it kind of hard to plan because we budget annually.
I have one more follow-up question. When we look at things, because we've done everything from, you know, the honey cart that goes around and it feeds us, many people, but has a really, I think, big influence on a small sector, but within our communities really helps that that industry start to thrive in our community. I know in Crozet, when we did the lab for all the vineyards and their testing and things like that, that was a big one where it could feed. And it's not as, you know, it's not AstraZeneca, but it really helps build a great foundation for these other businesses to rise on. Is there any priority when these things come, you know, across your, across the threshold into the office, that you're looking at that strategically?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's area for us to grow. I think the old plan was so broad, it was hard to say, you know, a lot of things aligned to it. And so it was hard to say, well, which one's better aligned than others. The work that we're doing regionally to get better understanding of what's coming is going to help us sort of us to be able to say, okay, we know that if this month it's this thing, but in 3 months, this other thing is probably coming forward. And so we need to be thinking about the next one in also. The other thing is, I think now that we have target sectors that are much more clearly defined, and the other goals that deal with talent and some of the procedural items, I think we can do a better job as we bring things forward to you all to say, this is in strong alignment, this is, you know, maybe more of a moderate alignment, this is out of left field, but, you know, there may be some benefit to it anyway, and let's just talk about that. So I think it tees us up to have a more thoughtful recommendation to you all, so that we're all thinking through those things at the same time together.
And I think too, we've had so many big projects, especially that, you know, lately, that I think it's these small projects to keep those, that really has a, to me, I think a large impact on our overall infrastructure. That I think, you know, to keep that in the plan and not forget about those smaller businesses that really can start making this really strong foundation for others to grow on. I think it's critical for, you know, overall health and welfare for these other areas to not be forgotten by these big companies that are coming in and can overshadow that easily. So.
Emily, I was just going to say you nailed it. So we are going to come back and share with everybody what happened with the EDO's work, but there is going to be a session of the discussion. Obviously, my intention is to come back to you all with the EDA and say, here is the framework and here are the things where we believe the EDA should be participating in the work. So it will be a two-part conversation. All I say is this: we thought it was really important to start with the EDO office, partly because getting ourselves aligned in terms of what our staff is working on and ensuring that we've got some real flow to that work allows, I think, the work with the EDA will be able to do at a strategic level to make much more sense as it's connect back to the business plan. So there is a little bit of process to the madness. That's all I'm saying. And I'm sorry if I'm cutting out like a crazy person, because I think I am.
I think, Mr. Benchnick.
Well, I was just gonna add that, yeah, I mean, I assume this is what this is all about, that we're gonna have filters to, you know, prioritize our decision making based on effectiveness and alignment with this thing. And, you know, that and also involve factors that maybe not defined in here, you know, that relate to opportunity and feasibility, right? Because there's could be some big long-term thing we wish for that we just kind of, you know, are blessed with. You know, we actually have a situation where the big long-term thing, you know, happened. But anyway, you might just, so I think we need to kind of converse and discuss how we see this, but, you know, we need to keep in mind whether it's an official tool or set of, you know, rules to inform our decision making based on these priorities, or just at least keep that in mind every time we, you know, do review stuff. Unfortunately, you know, our funds are limited, right? We do have certain functions in terms of, you know, bonding authority and all that, but we need to be careful. And I would just say that, yeah, we need to maximize effectiveness to, you know, stay focused. So.
Yes, I think what you're asking for is a decision-making framework around.
Yeah,
I was just going to say,
question. To circle back to the points that Neil made, I'm not a developer, but for 20 years, I've been hearing some of those concerns about the time frame for approvals in Albemarle County. Is there a commitment in the strategic plan to shorten those timeframes? And if so, who is accountable for that?
Yeah,
That's a great question. Not everything in the economic development strategic plan is owned by the EDO or the EDA.
Yes, that's
And
part of the question.
yeah, and so I think, you know, that one doesn't live inside of our direct realm of influence. But certainly lives within this organization, and I understand from the outside, it's all Albemarle County. And so, you know, I think the zoning modernization work that is kicking off shortly is a big piece of how we get to that answer. Part of the reason that it takes so long to review things is because the code is so complicated. And so part of the reason to do that work is to try to make the code less complicated so that it's easier to then implement. And so, you know, it'll be working with community development as they go through that process to look for opportunities to make sure that we're, you know, representing the business community's interests and the development community's interests, in addition to other stakeholders who would want to participate in that process, with an understanding that, you know, there's a clear articulation, at least through the economic development strategic plan engagement process, of the timelines are long. There's a lack of clarity of what the expectations are at the front end, and that creates a lot of challenges for the business community. So it's a partnership internal to try to work to make sure that that those needs are articulated and addressed through their process ahead.
And I guess follow-up question would really be to Stephen. Does he identify that as part of either a short-term, medium-term, or long-term goal, as he just described to us?
Yeah, so and Stephen had to run to another engagement at 4:30. But the draft document that we've been working on has that in it as something that is something to be worked on in the near term. That outcome, you know, is going to be the process. The time that outcome takes is going to be, you know, longer than a 6-month project, but certainly one that will again try to be sure that we're, you know, articulating what we've heard and the value that provides to the community if we're able to address the timeline question.
I just want to say from the Board of Supervisors, this is something that is very, very important to us. And I know staff we've been saying this for a while, and staff I know is now working on it. We have a comp plan, we have a strategic plan, the modernization and everything. This is something we're going toward. This is something that is a priority, and staff's working on that. I will say this county is very, I don't know if unique, I guess, in that it's not all urban, it's not all rural, it's a mix of everything. And so anytime you have a code or a rule, it's hard for it to apply to everything, everybody. It's almost like everything we look at when someone wants to do a redevelopment, when someone wants to do a business, we always get pushback from the people around, neighbors and everything. They don't want that traffic. We always hear about traffic, noise, blah, blah, blah. So it's like we know we have to do it. Everybody wants it. But the people surrounding these developments don't want it, and they let us know that. And each area, I mean, we're dealing with going to be dealing with tonight, the Planning Commission, frankly, is that each area is different. You just can't, it's hard to have an Albemarle, a set of rules that fits everything. It seems like everything we deal with, frankly, is almost needs to be individualized, and that's very difficult to do.
Yeah, but there has to, I love you to death, but I don't buy that we're so unique. I don't buy that we're that unique.
Well,
You mean there's no model across, there's, I thought 3,800 counties in this country? Then there's no way that we can say, well, how did you guys do it faster? How do you do it more efficiently? How do you do it better? It would seem like that could be done.
No, and I hear what you're saying, and well, I mean, we have had progress on that, because homes now, individual homes, I think that takes 4 to 6 weeks now to get a permit. I mean, we've reduced the amount of time for individual homes. We need to do that on a larger scale, which is something they're working on. But believe me, everybody wants an exception to the rule. Maybe that's a better way to put it when there's a land development. They want, okay, we want to be able to do this by right, but we want to be able to increase it. We want to be able to do this and that. And it makes it complicated, frankly. So, I mean, we're moving in the direction that is a board priority.
Are the cumbersome directives, are they state written documents, or are they county written documents? You said that the reason why things are so cumbersome and slow is that the procedures are detailed and hard to follow and they're complex. Are they county?
So
Policies or
I
state?
reflect the feedback that we heard, and it was that some folks who work in many localities in the Commonwealth find that it takes longer here.
Yeah.
And that they would say is because of the local zoning ordinance, which again is the Mr. Williamson handed out the zoning modernization project timeline. That is, probably a key objective of that process is to address how complex the current regulations are, which they, staff and I think the development community feel is a big driver for why reviews take as long as they do. If your checklist is so long, it's going to take longer to get through that checklist.
Yeah, and I think so often, this is a more general statement. I mean, it applies in general to the law as well as localities. A lot of these rules get driven by things that have gone wrong in the past. And what often happens is a rule or law is created to deal with one situation, and then it is applied across the board. And I think it's, the reaction is, okay, well, this one bad thing happened. We've got to make sure we're checking all these things, doing all these things to keep it from happening. Sometimes you do have to say, well, is our cure worse than the problem we're trying to fix? And I think that's a balance that the county is trying to deal with. And Bill can certainly speak to many of those things because he deals with it all the time. So I think that is one of the things we work through. But I do think it's the county's zoning subdivision ordinances and the steps through the process. And as B was talking about, it's okay, well, let's just add a provision that says, well, we'll let the board decide this. If you want an exception, you've got to go to them, you've got to go through. So it's deciding, okay, well, maybe there are things that really don't need to go to the planning commission or don't need to go to the board. It can be made at a staff level. So, because that's the other part is we're a big, complicated county with lots going on. So, you can't just stroll in and get into a board meeting that day. You got to there's timelines to get everybody ready. And so, that's part of what I assume that being worked on to try to address, and is trying to find that balance, I think is what's going on. But I think a lot of it is, there's some state regulatory framework, but most of it is the locality based.
Well, I attended a board of supervisors meeting and they were examining somebody for Airbnb. I mean, at the county level, really? Wow.
Well, I will say.
That's my mind, but holy smokes.
Yeah, it's the political, so on our side of the equation, it's the political pressure that we get, and depending on who's on the board, you get boards making exceptions, caving in. So then that creates other problems also, but there's a lot of political pressure out there from all the residents.
Sure.
And that causes exceptions, and I'm not necessarily in favor of that, but sometimes because of the topography, water, floodplain, whatever, you do need exceptions. And that goes back to the uniqueness. Believe me, if it's simple and is it just a straightforward thing, that we don't get a lot of pushback. We just boom, get it through. But unfortunately, not everything's that way.
Yeah, unfortunately. No, I was at a community meeting for one of the items coming, well, actually, most recently at the community meeting for the Woolen Mills proposal that's coming tonight, and the public was very engaged with what they want to do with that, and just seeing how many times that has come through the process. much like the other item, the seed property, which is coming through tonight. And just the interconnectivity of the issues, that something that was originally proposed around 2,000 houses came through first at 1,200, now they're looking at 600. And you think, oh, well, we need houses. That's great. It's going to bring 50 kids to Red Hill Elementary. Red Hill Elementary's at capacity. It's on a septic field. It can't take 50 more kids. So where do those kids end up going? If you're redistricting, you talk political. So this is a zoning question that's going to the planning commission, but ultimately there are going to be so many trickle down things that it's not just a zoning question anymore. And you heard the capital improvement request from the schools, and it's a big number, and I you can talk offline if you'd like to. I would love to. But that's one of those things where, you know, when we talk here about empowering talent and competing for investment, you know, the schools become a driver of that.
Right.
And so again, you know, a lot of, as we said earlier, it's my last point. A lot of these things fall outside of our ability to actually affect beyond bending the ear of hopefully some receptive members of boards and elected officials. So thank you. That's all I have.
Well, I think that, I guess the way I picture it is, while it might not be within our work plan of things we can control, but it's certainly within our purview of providing feedback and comments to the board as we work through this process.
And where there are opportunities for investment.
Right.
To help push things along. I think that's the other place where we can go. And certainly knowing, and I think you've mentioned this a couple of times, knowing as early as we can about those types of things, so we can start thinking about if we have to prioritize investment. Because you know, what's Mr. Richardson always say, we can do anything, but we can't do everything.
Correct.
And I've heard that a lot from you. So.
We hear.
All right.
What's your, what is it? Okay.
Yes, okay. All right, so there's no further questions, then we will go, second unfinished, I thought we were on the longevity. All right, so the next unfinished business item is the Seaville Biohub Go Virginia second year installment. Emily?
So just a reminder for the EDA, the Commonwealth Bio Accelerator project is also called Project Vital. They're the same thing. It was a 3-year pilot program that was funded through a Go Virginia grant to build an accelerator that would serve biotech companies in the region. And received this was a large grant out of Go Virginia, and this was a large grant, even if you look Commonwealth wide, for what has been a very strongly supported project. Again, sort of across the Commonwealth. This is being looked at as a model and as an asset for companies, you know, coming out of Virginia Tech, BCU, ODU, et cetera. But it's a project that was created by Seaville Biohub, which is, you know, obviously a Charlottesville, Albemarle based nonprofit. And the BioAccelerator is opened in February. Some of you were at the opening event. It's headquartered up at North Fork Discovery Park. There have been 8 companies that have officially signed on to the accelerator since it began in February. That is down from 43 companies that express interest in joining. And so there's a vetting process to make sure that the resources that the accelerator has are going to be a good match for what that company needs. And so some may be too early stage, some may be too late stage. So eight have successfully joined. And the accelerator looks like shared wet lab space. So there's benches that companies can get assigned to be able to do their work and advance their work. The benefit to the company is that they have a lot of expensive specialized equipment that they're able to access as part of their rental agreement. And it's very affordable space for companies. And then it's not just about the space itself. It also, Seaville Biohub provides connections with investors at different scales. They have an entrepreneur advisory team that can help advise on some of the things that startup founders are not so great at. So the bookkeeping and the legal aspects of operating a business. The Siebel BioHub also works with the University of Virginia and PVCC on an internship program where they can help connect budding talent with budding startups that need some extra hands in an affordable way. The impact of the BioAccelerator since it opened has been pretty incredible. It's so much so that they've already secured $15 million for what happens when the 3-year pilot is done. So they've $7.5 million each from the University of Virginia and the Commonwealth of Virginia to help fund a permanent home for the accelerator project. So incredibly exciting work that they've done over the past several months, and what we expect will be sort of into many years in the future. As part of the Go Virginia grant, the EDA approved a 3-year commitment of $100,000 per year for 3 years, subject to the approval of the EDA at each year. And so the reason that this is on the agenda today is for the EDA to consider authorizing the year 2 payment for this project. The objectives for year 2 are to continue recruiting companies, grow the investor and industry partnerships, to help with the thing that we hear the most from startup companies, which is financing, access to capital. They are looking at establishing a for-profit arm for Siebel BioHub to raise funds for direct investment, continuing work on workforce and training, and then, strengthen the infrastructure, the equipment that is needed for these companies to expand, and then to begin spending the $15 million that they've gotten for the next phase of that project.
So we are at the beginning of year 2.
Beginning of year 2. So this is a motion if the IDA so desires.
I have a quick question. So is this on the financials? I see it listed here, that 100,000. Is that we're gonna vote on, or is it out of the 150?
So this is the 100 that will come out for this year, because this is this financial year. So the whole agreement is for 300,000. We did 100 last year, 100 for this one.
You've already counted for it in the.
Yes.
But this is money that the board is appropriated or is coming out of the
Yes.
funds that are not sort of EDA funds.
Yes.
They're whatever the other fund is, but money that the Board of Supervisors appropriated for us to spend for this purpose.
Yes, for grant match purposes.
Hey, just out of curiosity, and you probably mentioned this and I don't know in my head, but what they do with the last 100,000 and how did that work out last year?
So the funding was to sort of start up capital to get the lab started. So it pays for operations as well as capital. And the grant did not. The grant was not so specific as to particular line items.
Okay.
But just to generally match the support.
Will there be line items like in year 3 where like you to do X, Y, and Z or not?
The way that the agreement was written at the time of its signing did not require them to provide that level of detail.
They did come and give an update on their progress, which was really nice to see when they saw, hey, this is kind of the before and the after the lab space. These are the new furniture and equipment that we were able to go. I think they kind of all plunked it in together. We couldn't say exactly what
Exactly. You can't point to a piece of equipment and say that was
their progress and what they were doing in that. And they did invite us as a group to go see it too.
Yes. Yes, and we certainly we can have Siebel BioHub come and give an update as they hit their year 1 of operations. So maybe in the February timeframe.
Could we do a meeting in North Fork?
Yeah.
And then we could actually go see those through it.
Yeah, we can do that.
2025, they launched. They recruited, there's 6 companies, 8 companies involved. They have an additional 15 million in funding.
Mhm.
So anyway, the potential energy has been turned into actual
Yeah.
energy, so
Yes.
I would make a motion.
Well, you can read that one.
Yeah.
Get there.
Look at you.
Supervisor Lupisto.
I'm sorry, a quick question, if I may. My understanding is that 100,000 or the 300,000, none of that goes for salaries, is that correct?
Again, it does not go too high. It's not like there's an FTE there that's specifically hired by the funds that the EDA has provided. But there's no exclusion of using, it's general operations of the accelerator, and so it doesn't preclude that going towards salaries.
Doesn't preclude.
Yeah.
So one could assume that it's going towards salaries.
Okay,
Money is fungible.
yeah,
If that money goes to equipment, then the other money is available for salaries, and that means salaries. Other money is available for equipment. It's, I don't. Those of you who are entrepreneurs, you don't want your hands tied in terms of that. If you can avoid it, right, you want to be able to put the money to whatever its best use is in getting this off the ground. I think having Dr. Hastings come back in or making the field trip is all we need to see what they're doing. I think the buy-in from other parts of the Commonwealth, both the government and, you know, the major university in our area, I think that sort of speaks to the value that this provides. So
Right.
Is the $15 million funding contingent on them achieving certain things by the end of year 3?
It's been approved, and so it is funding that is available to them.
Then why not start now?
They are heavily, still in the early planning phases, but they are sort of planning how to program those funds. There's a lot of details in, are they expanding their current footprint? Are they gonna just move somewhere that's larger? So they're working through the sort of the details of what does that actually mean. With this type of equipment that they have and the specialized HVAC needs that those types of businesses have, the $15 million will run out fairly quickly. And so there's also, additional fundraising that they're looking at as well.
All right, is there a motion?
Yes. Motion to move the authority authorized $100,000 to satisfy year two, CEQA by a grant match payment, and to authorize the authority's chair and treasurer to execute all documents necessary to complete this grant.
second.
All right, any further discussion? You wanna call them?
Who's Lauren?
Lauren,
Do
you the
you
roll.
wanna call the roll or do you want me to? Yep. Becky Long,
Aye.
Richard Johnson,
Aye.
Richard Storm,
I
Director
I
and Director Meshnick.
Aye.
Director Morrell.
Jeff.
Director Morrell.
And Director Morrell.
I'm in favor also.
All right. The motion passes unanimously. Okay, so EDA meeting dates. We have
saying something.
I think it'll just feedback.
So we have a list of meeting dates for next year. Anybody has, we'll actually adopt these at the meeting next month. We wanted to go ahead and give them to everybody, so make sure that if anybody has any objections or
I have a
conflicts.
just one question. Is there a reason we moved off the third Tuesday in March other than it was St.
Probably because I wrote it down wrong. That would be wrong.
St. Patrick's Day, we can't meet then.
All right.
It's very great.
City 10, so yes, 17.
The typo.
Benny's
Okay.
March 17.
Oh, man. Good catch.
Well, I think the two of them had mentioned something
Yeah.
and it makes getting to Cub Scout meetings harder because we make the fourth Tuesday.
And all this is 4 p.m., right?
Yes, ma'am. 4 p.m.
At the
start time.
EDA's pleasure, so
Sure.
if there was a desire to move off that time, that certainly is.
I think we're okay.
We're okay, okay,
Yeah.
great.
We can revisit that.
Okay.
All right, so next, staff report, Emily.
All right. Actually, this is Ashley's slide, so I'm gonna ask Ashley. to take it.
Sure. So we are rounding up Q4 of our agribusiness and food processing quarter for BRE visits, and I had an opportunity to join our regional state partners on several visits this quarter to 5 agribusiness and food processing businesses here in the county. We had 2 intelligence and national security and 1 biotech and life sciences visit. Some of the themes are things we've heard before. Just wanted to drop those in the slide. Our agribusiness and food processing customers specifically really want to echo each other that there's a need for more cold storage or shared space. One of the farms that we worked with specifically, this is something that makes complete sense once you hear it, but as they travel to markets from rural areas into towns and more populated retail areas, it's time intensive, it's labor intensive, it's expensive, and it's a food safety issue to travel back and forth with that load of stock. So a lot of her peers and herself would like to see some co-op retail space maybe. So those are things that we're trying to learn some more about. Staying small or scaling up is sometimes a challenge due to high operating costs and again barriers to business, regulatory, administrative concepts. Nothing overly new, but these are just good drumbeats to keep in our mind as we plan
Did they mention
to push forward.
what specific barriers to business?
Yeah, the barriers to business, that's kind of an overarching administrative and regulatory timing,
Yeah.
complicated systems.
With the food, any food processing
Yeah.
type activity,
Yeah, sure.
there's often several state agencies that are involved in regulating, depending on what exactly you're doing. It can be hard for a small business to check all the right boxes.
That's the public health. Safety.
And next quarter, as we go into the new, I'm sorry.
Before we move into the next one, so what's the role that the county can play if this is frequently a state issue? Yes. What's the role? How do we support the businesses in dealing with
I think
that?
education is the priority in getting ahead of regulatory issues. A lot of times it's a after the fact or reactionary mitigation effort rather than planning ahead. I think it's just preparing our customers, also giving them general awareness about support that the state is providing, like marketing support or grant support. Because a lot of them were generally unaware of a lot of the different.
So I guess, I'm sorry, I guess where I was getting sort of.
We certainly can't control policy on a national level.
There's that. I mean, we can advocate for streamlining and those types of things, keeping safety in mind, of course. But it almost feels like it's more of a, and I hate the way the kids say this, but a vibes-based thing. It's like, oh, all this stuff we have to do. And so maybe education is the best piece. But as we talk about growing a modern business, right? We get well.
As we go through the next 3 and as we get deeper into the implementation process of the strategic plan, I know internally we're working through some different opportunities to pull some of our business community leaders together.
And that was, I think, in one of
To continue to
Stephen's
stay
slides.
engaged rather than stopping with the stakeholder engagement through the planning process.
Right.
Actually having some ongoing tabletop types of discussions to.
And one of the things that the EDA has supported, that's run out of the umbrella of Denver Central is a food, accelerator. Thank you, Chair Long. And so part of that work is to try to get, all of these small mom and pop businesses are operating and having to navigate the same challenges. How do you build a community among those operators so that they're able to lean on each other for expertise? And then again, to sort of know what the resources are to get through those challenges. So it's not necessarily as trying to change the state regulatory framework, but how do you build a community so that these business operators are talking to each other?
The top left photo with the pizza, that is the business that came to our meeting a couple couple months ago or last October for the Imperfect Pizza grant that they had applied for, and that they operate out of Beacon Kitchen. That's local, that is a commercial kitchen that provides shared use opportunity for cost prohibitive space for food processors, and they really do have an ecosystem. They work together. Everyone collaborates already organically. So a lot of these goals to move forward with their agribusiness food processing customers, it's an opportunity that's waiting to happen. They already work great together and share resources, and it looks like it could be a really great.
And it takes that state regulatory off the business owners who are operating there. That's one less certification that they need from the state. So that the health department is inspecting Beacon as a whole facility. And so they're not having to individually certify a commercial kitchen operation to serve a business, which takes just one layer off their plate.
So two questions. On the cold storage, is that, how local does that need to be? Like, could there be one spot in the county, or does, the east side of the county need one and the west side of the county need one? Yeah, does it depend?
I mean, I think currently any is better
Yeah.
than none. Same goes with food processing opportunities and space. And we're not talking about adjacent locality level production facility size,
Yeah.
just space that's adequate for small producers to.
Well,
And
access.
there's some good opportunities through the funnily
Yeah.
enough. With the stronger biotech life sciences ecosystem, they also have cold storage needs.
A lot of those facilities share operations.
They have the ability to partition those cold storage warehouses in a way that you could commingle pharmaceuticals and food within the same building from the outside, but there's partitions on the inside to make sure that you're meeting all the rights.
So we're looking for different opportunities.
well, it just seems like to me that this might be something that a joint EDA project might work for, like, because Beacon is in the city, a co-op space because it's centrally located, but obviously a lot of the agricultural products are coming from the county, and maybe it's something we should work on together to get some co-op space or some things like that might be helpful, central cold storage. I don't know if that works.
Thank you. Okay, and then just moving into Q1, we'll be in biotech and life sciences focused again. And just to rewind back to the bioaccelerator, I'm sure we could arrange a tour if there are enough interested folks.
Maybe we can pick a spring date.
Yeah.
And go out there.
Good.
Maybe followed by Ravenna Futures.
I was gonna say, we can take you out.
If anything's happening there that we can see.
Yeah, should be some trees down in the spring.
Cool.
This is some events that we've been at recently. I'm not gonna talk about all of these, but top right. The Albemarle hosted the VEDP real estate team. The VEDP, the State Economic Development Partnership, has a database of all the sites and larger buildings that are available in the Commonwealth. And so part of our relationship with the state is maintaining the ones for Albemarle County into the state database. The real estate team uses that database when they get inquiries from site selectors or companies looking for buildings or sites in the Commonwealth. And they try to get out and see sort of the best of sites and buildings on a regular cadence, because there's so much to, you need the right size or specs for a building, but there's so much more to what's going to be a successful site selection than just enough space or enough loading docks on a building. And so it familiarizes them with what some of the assets that we have here are. And so we were very happy to host them just a couple of weeks ago. That is us at the Albemarle Business Campus on Fifth Street Extended. And then bottom right, I don't know my left from my right. Feels like I need to tell you that. I made it like 11 years without telling you. I'm wearing the same outfit because that was from this morning.
Wait, you didn't- brown shoes, brown shoes.
Good turnaround.
So, yeah. So we were so proud to once again host the Intelligence National Security Alliance Common Threads event in Albemarle County. Literally this morning. So they tried this for the very first time last year. I like telling this story, so I probably heard it, but I'm saying it again. Last year in the planning for that event, they said, you know, we don't do these events in lots of other places outside of the DC area because that's where most of our members are. But we do like to get out every once in a while and do something. We're going to take a chance on Charlottesville. And can you help us recruit people to attend this event? And we said, sure, you know, and I said, what's your goal? How many people do you hope to come to this first one? And they said, you know, 60, 75 would be great. Well, last year we had over 300 people come.
Wow.
A lot of them were from out of town. So they were coming from the DC area down, but we had
I'd say it's not that bad of a place.
I know, it's a great,
Yeah, like,
it's Christmas
it's not
time.
There's worse places to be. than the
Exactly.
Army.
But a ton of our local community came out. Last year, we sort of took advantage of the fact that the local community was kind of assembled in one place, and we had a pre-event briefing with some of our local startups to talk about the Ravenna Futures Project and how we were trying to be much more intentional about engaging that sector. Had a great conversation. This year, INSA came back and said, we'd love to do it again. Last year it was free. We have to charge this year. That's our model. And we said, okay, sure. You know, we'll take a hit on attendees. We're certain, but it'll be worth it. And we had 300 people again. So huge attendance again from outside of the region who just wanted to hear more about what goes on at Ravenna Station. Some of the opportunities with Ravenna Futures.
Emily crushed it, by the way.
Yeah.
Just telling you.
And it was an honor to be on the stage this year with some very, very, very important people and just a great conversation, a lot of good conversations before and after the event. We offered a tour for the first, you know, sort of 40 people to sign up of the Ravenna Futures property, and another just great opportunity to kind of show off our dirt and the proximity to Ravenna Station and all that provides. So we were just so excited to host it again, and we're glad we had several members of the EDA in attendance.
It's really impressive seeing all those folks.
Government's worth the hassle.
Yeah.
We killed Jane.
Well, well, say that right.
Good quotes, so come on, good quotes came out of that.
But just odd question, but if it was held up on a Thursday or a Friday, that's spur local spending or spending and
Yeah.
increase participation.
Yeah, that's a
Wanna
good
do a long
question.
weekend, but maybe it's
I like the way you think.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
I know we did have a lot of overnight stays. We started at 8 a.m. this morning. So I know we had some overnight stays.
That was smart.
We could measure the success and economic impact. We have it on a Thursday, people stay Friday, Saturday. Sunday.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You can couple it with the wine tour.
Goals for next
and
year.
Get the seriously, get the
Yeah.
community
Yeah.
involved
Yeah.
and do some, and make it a bigger economic event for the community.
Yeah, the organizers said we want to come back again next December, which again is just great because they're only going to do events that make sense for them. And they want to add more programming to make it a longer day. So the
Yeah.
first 2 years were half-day events, but they talked about adding a classified briefing that we wouldn't be able to attend. And then folding in stuff like go out to a winery. And so they're sort of thinking the same way.
Awesome.
The classically, I don't know, I think this is a very, very good venue, and I think doing, like, when we were bringing DI down here, we had to coerce them to come down. So we had to show them this wasn't like Hooterville, it was great. And they didn't know that.
That's Whoville.
They didn't know that. You know, they didn't know that because they all live in Northern Virginia. They don't know anything. Well, we go down there, you know, and then they were, oh, that's frequency great.
Yeah.
So you accompany it with a winery, that would be fantastic. That's great.
That's great.
That's super smart.
Courtney, work on some meetings
Yeah,
on the stage.
that we could. Just quickly, I'm not going to read this, I promise. This is another project that the EDA helped support, that Siebel Biohub led is a Talent Pathways Initiative. It was another Go Virginia funded project that we provided some grant matching for. That really, a year and a half ago, maybe a little bit longer than that ago, when Afton Scientific was still talking about, it was still just it was a code name project still for their expansion, 200 jobs, $200 million. And several of the local workforce partners got together and said, how are we going to make sure that our community is ready to be successful candidates for those jobs? And we need to build a talent. We need to work on talent so that we have the right workforce. And thank goodness we did, because now there's several more large projects underway in that space in Albemarle and beyond. And so this project was well underway when AstraZeneca was announced. It was the final report is not out. I'll send a copy when it is, but this was a sort of a celebration event to talk about how to get ready, how to be ready. And I think this is one of those processes where the report is great. The connections between the workforce partners and a lot of the small businesses in the community is probably better because it really deepened the understanding of how PBCC, ACPS, K-Tech, and University of Virginia can be a real talent resource for these small businesses. And each of them individually have small number needs, but when you add them up together, you really start to see the large needs that the community has, and then that puts PBCC in a good position, for example, to build a program to meet those needs. So it was a really great process that we think is going to yield a lot of positive outcomes over the next couple of years. And then another one that I will not read to you, but I just pulled a couple of tables and charts and infographics out of the University of Virginia. Just did a new economic impact study. Their previous one was, I think, getting on 10 years old. And it's great that they did do an update, because the number before was over $5 billion of annual economic output. And it's up to almost $12 billion. So that remains the largest sector, largest employer in our region. Those numbers are inclusive of the health system. So it's the health system, the academic side, and also UVA-wise. And if you dive into the report, you can get more localized data where you sort of isolate pieces of that. But you can I just thought it was interesting. There's some information in the appendices about UVA invention disclosures by industry sector. You can see a lot of alignment with the innovation corridor areas of focus. So IT and analytical instruments, biopharmaceutical and medical devices. There's a table here on UVA tech transfer activity. So how much IP being generated at the university is being spun out into commercial opportunities. And then the LBG startup employment by industry cluster. LBG is a licensing ventures group at UVA, and you can see what sectors the companies that they're working with are operating in. So just a couple of quick data points. We can also send a link so that you can check out the website and the full report, which is available on their website. And I think that's it for me. Yeah, that's it for me.
Any questions? All right, other matters from the board?
Just wanted to follow up on the little discussion I had last month with the Boy Scouts, Scouting America, and their Christmas tree lots, right? So we had 4 lots across the county. 8 permits required, 4 sign permits, 4 building permits, because we have sheds that are there temporarily. I talked to the person who, the volunteer who filed these, took about 16 hours worth of filing of time for him to do the work. And we had them all back in time. But we were also graced with 2 site inspections per location. One, to make sure that the sign we posted was in the proper location. And the one I'm most familiar with was we were 40 feet from the intersection of Merchant Walk Square and 5th Street Station Parkway, and 8 feet back from the edge of the roadway. So we're not in VDOT's right of way. We don't do this all the time, although we are going to do it sort of once a year. And now that we've done it and had it, we'll know how to do it again next time. But I hear, right, for people who do this all the time as part of their business, I can see where it's a big headache. We're trying to sell 1,000 Christmas trees across 12 counties in the Commonwealth, and I don't even think we're in the city anymore. And so just so scouts can help, earn some money so they can go on adventures. It's a challenge and it's hard, and we think we're providing a service. So again, how do we make that easier for everybody, but certainly for nonprofits, for people who don't do it all the time? And so it was just a follow-up again, the fact that we ended up with 2 inspections from the zoning inspector to come to make sure the sign was in the right location, and then that the sign came down properly at the certain date. And I'm not saying they're not supposed to do that, but boy, that felt like that doesn't always happen with all the businesses in the county.
Do you think that has a lot to do with the being able to also be respectful of maybe other businesses that are in the area? You have a temporary business who comes in and they are building a structure, but if there's high winds or something, they have a structure, if it's not well, has a good foundation, it could blow and hit something or cause damage. And
Sure.
the sign for the local businesses, I think it's
Right, so we were.
it's like a balance, because you have, of course, you're a nonprofit and kids, but also the businesses who they're having somebody temporary come into their space if it's a parking lot or
Sure.
something like that,
Sure.
and that's gonna have impact on their business. So I think, as B said, it's a hard line to walk.
Oh, it absolutely is. And while we're nonprofits, you go up 29 and you see a tent that's on somebody else's property, right? We're on private property. We're on Fifth Street Station property. They're kind enough to let us use basically an unused portion of their parking lot to do this. And the one at the bottom of Pantops is the same. The property at Hollymead, right? So the undeveloped piece there, just sort of up the hill from Coles, is where that lot sits. And I think Great Value lets us use it in Crozet. So we're working with these private places, and we absolutely do. And we had high winds that knocked trees over and knocked a bunch of stuff down. But it's a challenge for us, and I'm sure for the businesses that come in temporarily. It's a challenge to try and, right? If it can be easy for people that don't do it all the time, or simpler for people who don't do it all the time, it should be it would be simpler for those who are in it and live with it on a regular basis, I guess is all I'm getting at. It was just sort of a follow-up out of what we talked about last year. And also, we still have trees to sell. So if you know of anybody looking, if you know of anybody looking.
Salesman guy, yeah, he was here.
Good idea for somebody out there. I might give it away. I should trademark it. Permits are us. Maybe there's a local permit expediter type person. We have them in our firm. If they make a business just to permits for people or a fee, and maybe it's an incentive based thing of how quick they can get it done. Anyway, it's an idea.
Yeah.
Half serious.
Anything else? All right. We'll adjourn. And we'll see everybody in January. Everyone have a nice holiday.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's never done.
Thanks, Deb.
At least that.
Thank you.
No, I wasn't quick enough.